Welcome to the Instant Gratitude Now podcast. We are broadcasting vibrancy everywhere. I am Ilana Kristeva, self-care vigilante and founder of Field of Choices, where we play well, sleep well, to serve well. Everywhere I look, I can find something awful, but my self-care vigilante lifestyle keeps me robust, physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially. Join me on this journey of transforming something we perceive as awful into something awesome. Today's podcast, May 27th, 2020, is entitled Saying Yes to Opportunities, episode number 2 of my Sedona SuperTeam Series. Meet Sedona SuperTeam member Jim Geiger, founder of Summit Leader Coaching. Hello everyone, my name is Ilana Kristeva, self-care vigilante, and welcome to Instant Gratitude Now, where we are broadcasting vibrancy everywhere. I got so excited, I love the word vibrancy, and as you can see, I am sharing my screen with Jim Geiger, a vibrant self-care vigilante himself. Here it is. Let me go ahead and share with you my screen. What is your Everest? I love that photo. So Jim has a fabulous resume, and he has a beautiful media one sheet with wonderful information. And look at that. Look at that photo. Go ahead, Jim. Hello, good morning. And share.
Good morning.
Share with our vibrant tribe. Let me go ahead and stop share for a second here. In that photo, where were you?
I was on Denali, actually, on that particular photograph. It was we're about halfway up the mountain. It's a 20-mile one-way trip to the top from base camp, and it was we just got out of all of the fog down below, and we finally got into the sunshine. It was just a really great day. Finally, we were able to take some good pictures, and that was one we stopped to take. I love it.
Thank you, and I appreciate your selecting that photo for your Media One sheet. Now, for those of you who have never met Jim, you may know that my attitude is now is what counts. It's not about what we've done in the past. It's not what we're planning to do in the future, but how we live right here, right now. And in this very moment, we can be distracted by negative thoughts, negative emotions, or conditions in the world. However, instantaneously, we can transform anything that we perceive as awful into something awesome right here, right now. And with that attitude is how mountaineer Jim Geiger lives his life. Not just from the photo, pictures are worth thousands of words, and that's wonderful, but his spirit as well. I'll just share with you from my personal experience, and this is just my personal experience, that Jim, he walks his talk. And when I was in my 40s, I was bedridden. I was in a wheelchair using my wheelchair, canes, crutches, walkers, you name it. However, Jim, in his 40s, he suddenly discovered his passion for mountain climbing. So, Jim, would you like to share a little bit about what happened in your 40s that inspired you to climb Denali, Mount Rainier, Whitney, and Everest, and Fuji, et cetera, et cetera? The list is super long, and I'm not bragging on him. I'm just saying that these are some of the mountains, only some of the mountains he has climbed. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, there's lots of et ceteras. But when I was 40, I moved next to I got divorced and I moved out of my home into an apartment building, and I happened to be put next to a guy about my age, and we kept seeing each other coming out of our apartments because we were right next to each other. And one day I just asked him, I said, what do you do? I said, well, I climb mountains, and would you like to go with me? Well, I had seen my first snow-capped peak about 5 years before that when I was driving up and down I-5, saw Mount Shasta, and went all the way up to Mount Rainier and I just had this wonderful experience of seeing these big, huge mountains, and they're full of snow in the summertime. So what's going on here? But I never thought I'd ever climb them. And he invited me to go with him on a hike. And I said, yes. And what I know about the universe is if we're open to the universe and we say yes to things that come along as an opportunity, a lot of great things can happen. And this changed my life by going with him. And he took me to Pyramid Peak up in Desolation Wilderness, and I just loved it. It was all these lupins up to my armpits, and I just, wow, this is fantastic. And I loved getting to the top because then I could see all around me. There's no more up, which was wonderful. Because then going down was great, having to come up with this thing. But then it was on to Mount Shasta with him, Mount Lassen. I got caught up in this experience of accomplishing these things I never thought I was ever going to do. And then one thing led to another, and that was 30 years ago. This was all. So it's been a wonderful experience, a lot of lessons I've learned from all the mountains that have just changed my life and changed other people's lives, because I've led probably 300-400 people up to the top of Whitney and Shasta over the 25 years that I've climbed it. So it's been a great experience for me, but sharing that with others has been more impactful on me. And they've had this wonderful experience of doing things they never thought they could do. So it's been a great journey for me, and I'm now nearly 75, and so it's been a 35-year journey that's just been fantastic. And it's not over yet.
No, it's not over by a long shot. You know, I typically don't talk about specific ages. You know, we speak about age in generalities by decades. But I want to point out that Jim will be turning 75 in July. So today is May 27th, and in a couple of months, he will turn 75.
Yeah.
And I love your spirit, Jim. What you mentioned, when you saw the mountain, it was the middle of summertime, and you saw the snow, and you were like, what's going on here? And you were so curious. And you allowed that curiosity. You're like me, we've got kids in us, and we allow our kids to come out. And I'm so grateful. And the people you have taken up various mountains are so blessed to have you, a grown-up with a kid's heart, taking them, and they trust you, and you train them prior to the climbs, and there's safety, you're certified, everything. I'm so grateful. And, you know, this is, I want to ask you many more questions, because I think the Vibrant Tribe is now, you know, have piqued their curiosity about you. You have climbed all these humongous mountains and snow-capped, challenging, life-threatening. You're living on the edge, right? And it's one step at a time. We've learned that in hiking, climbing, it's always one step at a time, one breath at a time. When I invited you to join me to go to Sedona, Arizona, to hike and rock climb in Sedona. Now, I'm not belittling or making Sedona look small at all, because if anyone who's been to Sedona, huge is the word. Sedona is energetically humongous. The rocks are indescribably humongous. What inspired you? This is not climbing in snow. This is desert. This is climbing no snow, no peaks, snow-capped peaks. What inspired you to come to Sedona with me? It's not like any other mountain you've ever climbed.
Well, that's true. Although I've done some rock climbing as part of some of the bigger peaks, like in Granite peak in Montana had a rock climb about 800 feet straight up through the chimneys, which was a really interesting experience. But in Sedona, it was the team that I was with that really made it special. You organized this team that we have now, and I was a part of this team, and I was just very honored to be there with all these team members. And then the rocks of Sedona are they're a mix of different peaks that I've been on that weren't snow-capped. Like Kings Peak in Utah, just a long climb up all these rocky slabs until you get to the top, which is similar in some respects to the ones that we do in Sedona. We don't go vertical in Sedona, but we have a very nice approach, some kind of scrambling and loose rock and interesting slabs to cross, and it just made it's a really interesting place to hike and to climb. And I love that part of it, because I like scrambling in particular. And so there's this opportunity for a mixture of different kinds of hikes and climbing in Sedona that just brings out all different kinds of aspects of abilities that you need to have in order to do bigger mountains eventually. So this is what I like about Sedona, just a nice place to climb, very, very beautiful, and especially with the team members that we have has made it really special to be there.
Oh, thank you. Well, we all feel as blessed as you felt to have you join us. Thank you for pointing out the variety of terrain and the different techniques that the rocks challenge us to practice. There are no end to the surprises that I've experienced, that's for sure. And just to give people an idea, you mentioned scrambling a few times. You don't often hear people talk about enjoying scrambling. And share with folks, I know how tall you are. Go ahead, you tell them how big you are, and maybe they can get an idea as to how interesting it is to hear someone as tall and large as you talk about scrambling up mountains. Go ahead.
Well, I'm 6'1", and not extremely tall, but tall enough to grab onto things. And the scrambling part of it is where you can't hike up normally, one step at a time. You have to actually use your arms and legs and get yourself up this kind of lay on the rock if you have to, or grab a hold on one side and pull yourself up with the other side. I mean, there's one rock that we climb, we call it the butt crack rock. And you got to get yourself in this crack and kind of squeeze your way up through this crack to get to the top of that particular ledge. And then once you're on top of the ledge, it's another little walk, and then another little rock gets in the way, and you got to get over that one. So it's a really fun experience. And the one that I have here in California is Horsetail Falls, which is a really big boulder area, and you have to climb over these boulders. That's what we call scrambling. It's a really interesting way to get up peaks. So it's it's the fun part of it that I like a lot, versus standard just hike with a big old backpack on. And so Sedona provides with all different kinds of things to different experiences in climbing. That's what I like about it. And I actually had the fortune of having one gal that was a little bit more inexperienced, and we actually got her up quite a ways up this one rock that we climbed. And so it was fun to see her do this where she didn't think she could do it at all. So that brought me the joy. And then she was also very joyful too. So a lot of fun on those climbs.
Yeah, everyone, Jim is referring to Karen, and in a few weeks, Karen will be with us on Instant Gratitude Now podcast. So It was filled with surprises, our trip. And for those of you who don't know the backstory of why I was inspired to even build a team to go to Sedona, And it may be a little bit difficult to think about now with us having been locked down for months now because of this COVID-19 pandemic. And Jim, we're going to get to that in a few seconds, because I think that we've offered a lot of support to one another through this. And I think we can, it'd be wonderful for us to share it. So the backstory is that I had a dream when I was bedridden. I had a dream that I was walking in the desert, and I was amazed. I thought to myself, I must be dreaming because I'm walking on my two legs. And at that time, I was unable to stand on barely one leg. And when I woke up from the dream that I remembered so vividly, I said to myself, one day, if I'm ever able to walk again, I would love to go find the desert where I was in this dream. And I had the video so strong in my mind. And I knew that once I got to a place that was exactly where I was in my dream, the video would match, the pictures would match, and it would be fantastic. Well, I didn't know where to start. This planet is huge. And the short of the long is that I decided to go to the desert in Arizona, go to Sedona, where I had never been to before. I had only heard about it. And I thought, well, maybe if I start there, maybe if I go to Sedona, I will begin to, meditate, talk to people, meet people, share my story of this dream that I had, and maybe they could guide me. Perhaps I could get a lead on where to find this desert. And what I've realized, Jim, after these years of going to Sedona and also having the super team join me in 2019, it was October last year, I realized that it's not necessarily finding the exact desert that I saw in my dream when I was bedridden. It's about the journey, literally the journey of sharing that story and meeting people and sharing with my friends like you about this, because one day I was climbing by myself and I heard the voices whispering, bring them here. And, I looked around. I thought, I was in the hiking zone, and I didn't notice that other people were on this trail with me. And it wasn't a trail. I blazed some, on my own. And I was, just surprised. All of a sudden, I heard voices, and I ignored it for a while. And then when I came home, I meditated on that, and I realized that I was to bring people, certain people, not the whole world, but certain people to Sedona, because Sedona was calling for our service, our help. Sedona has helped me so much in my healing, emotional, physical, energetic, spiritual, financial, you name it, across the board. And I wanted to offer this to other people as well. At first, no, I didn't want to offer. I wanted to keep this playground all to myself, me, myself, and I. But it was because of what I experienced on that particular hike that inspired me to invite others like you. So if it weren't for ghosts whispering in my ear, I would not have done that. That nudge was really strong. And speaking of nudges, I would like you to share with people some of the nudges you've experienced in your journey, maybe at Sedona, what you've experienced there, or on prior hikes, or something recent.
We call it the small, sweet voice that speaks to us, and it's something like in the middle of the chest or the heart where this voice comes from, and it's something that I didn't pay attention to enough in my early life, but more recently there's been more of that voice speaking to me and I'm listening and I'm actually taking action. But if you just listen to it and don't do anything about it, well, it's not helping you. But if you listen to it and take the action that's required, then miracles can happen. The one example, the most extreme example in my life was when I was in Antarctica climbing Mount Vinson, and I had just come off the mountain. I was unsuccessful. Just a summit day was just not my day, and that happens. Not frequently, thank goodness, but that day I was disappointed. I was sitting in this glacier tent where a lot of other folks were there from other parts of the world, doing what they came to do. Some fly to the South Pole, some go visit the penguins, others climb mountains, others do marathons, ski to the South Pole from the last degree. So there's many different people in this glacier tent, and we're all having lunch, and the whole thing was full. It was lunchtime. And I was done with my lunch, and I got out of my chair, and I was going out, and I had to pass all these tables to get out of the tent. And I'm sitting I'm hearing this revelry going on at this last table before I have to leave the tent. And there's this little nudge, this thing. You got to sit in this empty chair that's at the end of that table. Why do I want to sit in this empty chair is what I was thinking to myself. Mm-hmm. And again, you've got to sit in this chair. Okay, well, I sat in the chair and I asked the guy, what's going on? Oh, we just got back from the South Pole. And he was the only one at the table that spoke in English. The rest of them were all speaking in Russian. Rastrovia, Rastrovia. They're celebrating whatever the South Pole thing. And so we just got to talking. Yeah, well, what about you? Well, I just got off of Mount Vinson. Oh, you're a climber. What else have you climbed? And I rattled off a whole bunch of other mountains. And the last thing I said, well, I've been to Everest Base Camp, but I've never been able to afford to go to the top. Within seconds, he leans forward and says, well, I'll fund you. And then he leans even further forward and he says, and I mean it. In that moment, my life changed. Had I not listened to that small, sweet voice, I'd never gone to Everest. And we kept on talking, but the essence of the story is he gave me $208,000 to do this trip to Everest and climb Everest. And without a contract, we just shook hands and everything was fine. And that's my little nudge story. That was it was more like an elbow in the ribs, actually. But that really, it changed my life for the better, because I've had so many great experiences. Even though it was during the 2014 avalanche and nobody got to the top, I at least had the opportunity to climb partway up the mountain. And we lost 16 Sherpa during that trip, but it was all filmed. There's a movie that was made of me, because a couple of weeks later, he said, would you mind being filmed? And I said, of course, even though I was screaming inside, no, I don't want to be filmed. But it was just saying yes to an opportunity that was out there. And the more we say yes to opportunities, the more great things can happen.
Absolutely. I don't know if I ever told you, Jim, when you told me about the movie, it's called Accidental Climber. When he told me about the movie being shown at the Napa Valley Wine Festival, it's not a festival that I normally attend. And, I live close enough, but it's still a drive. And I had a very full schedule that weekend. I had a very full schedule. I was driving throughout the Northern California that weekend, including the Bay Area. And for some reason, I had this nudge. And I love the fact that you called it a sweet voice, because this was a sweet voice. The sweet voice said, go to Napa. Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, this was not part of my itinerary. But I went anyway, and I was going to go Saturday night. Something nudged me, and I ended up booking a hotel for Friday night. And I didn't know this, but I ended up coming to see your movie on premiere night where it had not been shown anywhere in the world, that was the very first time.
Yeah.
And had I not followed my sweet voices, nudges, I would not have been there for you, with you, to celebrate premiere night of Accidental Climber. And what an amazing movie. Everyone, go ahead. Jim, you tell us how other people can see this movie, because it has not been accessible. Hasn't been accessible yet.
No, and correct. And I just got contacted by my director a week or so ago, and he said it's now been sold, and it's been picked up by Vision Films, and they're going to be showing it in August on demand. And so the best way to get on that list is to send Ilana or me an email saying that you'd like to be a part of this demand release. And so I've got Steve, my director's got a marketing person that I'm in contact with, and she's been an agent for many, many elite athletes over the years. And so she was enamored with my movie, and she's, I gotta do this. I gotta be a part of this movie. She's now one of the producers because she's got this background in marketing and working with elite athletes. So it's gonna go. And we got, I don't know how many demand movies they're gonna show, but this is one in August that I think would really be important for people to get a part of. And so send us an email and we'll put you on the list. That's the best way to get to see it.
Thank you. So this is a movie in which you get to see Jim train to climb Mount Everest. You get to see him in his home. You get to experience, they interviewed his family members in different places, the different cities, in this whole heartfelt preparation just for this one climb, and then the experience of being on the mountain. So if you've never been on Mount Everest or at base camp, here's an opportunity to live vicariously through Jim. Thank you, Jim, for that. So, because I've never been to Everest. Speaking of elite athletes, Jim is on my Sedona SuperTeam, meaning that if you decide that you want to experience Sedona, Arizona with us, you can do so. You can join Ilana's Sedona SuperTeam in Sedona, Arizona. We have it scheduled for October of this year, October 2020. Stay tuned. We may move the date. We may not move the date. Whatever happens, we are dialed into the universe. We are listening for Sedona's guidance, Mother Earth's wisdom, to take one step at a time in preparation. Remember, when we travel and when we climb, that's only part of the experience. That's only part of the adventure. A huge part of the adventure is that soul searching, right, Jim? And I would love for you to elaborate on that soul searching that it takes prior to doing something amazing like climbing a mountain, and then the soul searching that you go through when you're on it.
I think the best thing that comes of that is is first of all, saying yes to that opportunity. I said yes to many mountains. But then there is the desire that is so important that we need to have in order to accomplish that particular goal. We can set this goal of climbing Whitney or Shasta or whatever, a big mountain like Rainier, another one, Denali, etc. But without having that desire, you probably not going to make it. I think that there's probably 80% of the climb is all up in the head. It's up here. And we have to get that dialed in order to have the rest of the physical ability kick in. And so the two together, the mental and the physical, are extremely important in accomplishing a mountaineering goal. Now, aren't so physically demanding, but they're also very critical that you have the vision of what it is you want to accomplish, and then have the desire to accomplish that, and then having some support along the way to hold you accountable to doing whatever those small, sweet steps are to get you to your goal. I had support team not only on Everest, but I had other, like on Denali. That was my first big Everest. And I had a support team there of a dozen people helping me, from physical therapists to massage therapists to doctors to chefs to whatever, personal trainers, and that had the same thing for on Mount Everest. So we're all part of a community, and if we act together in community, we can support one another, like Ilana and I are supporting each other on many things. And so this community of support is so critical, along with the passion that you have, the desire that you bring to this particular goal. It's all together, it works all together. And then getting this thing dialed in so you're not buying into all the monkey mind stuff that tells you can't do it. And that's where the support of the team really comes in. Oh, you can get through this. You got to kind of break through some of these barriers in order to accomplish these great things. And that's how this works. It's all synergistic and in community that we become successful. I didn't do all these great things without a lot of help from a lot of people and a lot of support from my family and friends and my team. That's how it works. So love to have you come with us to Sedona, and you can be part of our great team.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the group we're going, so we have the super team, and the participants of this retreat, it's not a huge retreat. Why? Because it's an extremely intimate retreat. If we had a huge number of people, it would be less intimate. So the reason why this is an intimate retreat, and maybe Jim, you want to share a little bit about it. This is where we get to take off our outside hats, our CEO hats, our president hats, our whatever hats, and we'll leave them at home, come to this desert and be with other leaders and coaches, letting our hair down, sharing, healing, hiking, hula hooping, helping ourselves while we're helping others.
Right.
And, you know, Jim wasn't sure what he was getting himself into beforehand. And, well, go ahead, Jim, you tell them.
Well, no, you're right. I didn't know the extent of the experience, because I knew that there was going to be some other elite athletes like Marcus and Samuel, and other healthcare workers like Joan and Karen that would be on this team, but I hadn't really known, well, I didn't know Samuel or Marcus at all until we got there. And so to get together with this wonderful mix of team members was a little bit apprehensive. And then as we got to know each other, it just became very friendly and cohesive. And that experience for me was over the top as far as mixing with this level of experts, and to have that friendship develop so quickly, and the experiences that we shared were so wonderful on the mountains. It would be such a great place for this community that we're talking to today to be together with us all, because it would be in harmony with not only ourselves, but within this wonderful area called Sedona. I mean, it's unbelievable, and the beauty is so fantastic. And of course, then you can hike with me, so that'd be even better. So I'd love to have you all come. It's a really enriching experience beyond what I thought was even possible. That's the best way I can describe it, just way beyond anything I expected.
Wonderful. I'm glad it was wonderful for you. It was magical for me, because I was accustomed to doing Sedona, going to Sedona, experiencing Sedona all by myself. And this was my first time experiencing it with other people, and I was apprehensive as well. However, I followed guidance, and Sedona knows what she's doing. She really does. She knows how to keep people that are not ready for her yet away, and she knows how to bring them to Sedona. So I have full confidence that as we continue following the wisdom of Mother Earth, we will have so much more. We'll have fun again this coming October or November, whenever everything opens up. Now, as you were describing things, Jim, we've been isolating, we've been in lockdown, we've been home, our lifestyles have completely changed. And, I'm part of another elite sports coaching organization as well. And we talk a lot about what we can do for ourselves during lockdown in preparation for the new world that we're walking into, the new world that is evolving right now. It's all transformation. And we are transforming right now while we're in lockdown. But what have you found helpful for your fitness, your spiritual regimen, self-care, all of those areas and more?
Well, there's several things that I've incorporated into my life slightly differently. And there's several things that are very important. One is exercise, one is diet, and one is rest. And of course, the companionship, the social part of this has been very difficult, but I've been able to find, we call ourselves the quarantine buddies, and we get together on a weekly basis, at least in person, and we've got to have that connection. So they're all safe, I'm safe, and so we've all been gathering together just to share and be with each other and break bread, as they call it, have a meal together. And I found that the exercise now is, I can't go to the gym. So my neighbor Adam has a in-house gym with all the weight pull downs and all that kind of stuff, a home gym. And so we've been using that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I also been doing my own workouts, speed walking up hills, my little hills around here. It's very short, so I got to do it like 25, 30 times. But that, if we're not energetically exercising, the mitochondria aren't as happy as they need to be. And so the more intensity you put into the effort, the more the mitochondria become happier and happier. And what I've noticed is that if I let it go too long and don't have this intensity part of the exercise, the mitochondria take a little bit longer to get back into the condition. And so I'm keeping them going. And matter of fact, later today, I'm going to go for a longer hike up hills. But it's so important that we do the eating and the sleeping and the workouts and keep that going. Otherwise, when we open up, we're going to have to go get ourselves back to where we were before this whole shutdown. So I don't want it to slip, and so I've been doing it on a regular basis to keep it from slipping.
You mentioned mitochondria. Let's have a conversation about that, because I don't feel that there are enough people talking about the heart of what keeps our bodies going and the life force within our bodies. So go ahead and share also, for those of you who don't know, Jim and I had social distancing lunch in his backyard last week. And we were talking a lot about mitochondria, and Jim has beautiful conversations with his mitochondria. And as you know, I love tapping. I love having conversations with different parts of my body, my internal organs, the whole system, because I think that if my glutes are happy, then the rest of my body has a better shot at being happy. If my internal organs are happy, then, I'm well on my way to climbing. And Jim talks to his mitochondria.
Well,
Explain to people, first of all, what mitochondria is.
well, without getting into all kinds of technical jargon, the mitochondria are the heart of the cell, and they convert sugar to energy, and glycogen to ATP, as we call it in the technical world. But it's really taking sugar and making energy. And if the mitochondria aren't happy, they're not converting the sugar to energy as efficiently as we want them, and we feel sluggish. We're not as happy either. And so it's really important to keep them going on a regular basis, and the only way to do that is to exercise, to energize them. And so they keep doing this job that they're there to do, is to convert sugar to energy. And so that's kind of the bottom line for me, is how do I keep my mitochondria happy? I don't necessarily talk to them, but I do activate them, and that's keeping me going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you're keeping up with your regimen and adapting.
Yeah.
That we have found outdoor staircases to head up and down, and we
Yep.
make do with what we have, right? There are
Yes.
opportunities to, lockdown does not mean don't get vitamin C. Lockdown does not mean don't stick your head out of the window and get fresh air. Lockdown does not mean stop moving in your home.
Correct.
No matter what condition is going on, no matter what the economy is like, no matter who's in charge, no matter what, we take personal responsibility for what happens here. And as Jim mentioned, it's not about the mountain, it's not about the climb, it's about preparation. It's about what's going on here, all of it. And I understand that you've been working on your book manuscripts. Would you care to share about your books?
Well, the first one is called Take the Next Step, and it's the memoir of an accidental climber. How did a guy from Wisconsin almost become the oldest American to summit Mount Everest? It's a memoir I wrote for my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. And so I'm hoping to impart some wisdom. The second book is Lessons from the Mountains, which is a reiteration of the climbs again, but with the lessons that I've learned on the mountains. And I'm working on a third book, which is called Jim's Guide to Aging Well. So that's where I'm going to talk about the mitochondria and how we get the best rest, how do we recover, how do we eat properly and exercise and high intensity stuff, all this stuff. So that's coming out probably next year sometime.
Wonderful. Yeah. Congratulations, Jim.
Thank you.
I'll just share with everyone, it's been a beautiful journey of, it's not easy to write books. However, the reason why I created the Great Habits class for writers and athletes is I truly believe that there is an inner athlete in every writer, a person, a body, the mitochondria in our cells. When we are in touch with ourselves at the cellular level and aware and connect consciously, we can manifest so much. So every writer has an inner athlete, and every athlete is a great storyteller, including Jim. He's a great storyteller. I encourage you to check out his books. And Jim, I will include your website as well as your email for those of you who, I think we may actually add that as a banner at the bottom of the screen at the end of this podcast, so people can grab a pen and a piece of paper and take down that information so that they can learn more about your movie, Accidental Climber, Take the Next Step, and your other books as well, and follow you on social media. How's that sound?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I welcome all the contact.
Every Sedona SuperTeam member of mine, I have a pet name for them, and my special name for Jim is Elite Mountaineer. And I think those two words just They're magnificent words, each word separately, elite and mountaineer. And when you put them together, Jim Geiger, elite mountaineer. So thank you, Jim. It's been wonderful to have you. Would you like to share anything else about your plans, how you're looking forward to, preparing to re-enter, as some of the COVID-19 restrictions are slowly being lifted? We need to do things gently, slowly, and carefully, of course. Just
Right.
because the restrictions are lifted doesn't mean that we need to go and expose ourselves all over again to, to take these risks. What would you suggest? What do you plan to do? How about this? What do you plan to do so that we can look to you as a role model and decide for ourselves what is important for us to consider in re-entering into the new world that is emerging now?
Well, there's guidelines here in California that have been set in stone, I guess you could say. But I'm going to follow all of those recommendations. I wear a mask out of respect for other people because I don't want them to get sick from me. And so that I do that in wherever it's necessary. If I walk into a building, I'm generally wearing I call it a buff. It's just my mask. And certainly that I have some wipes in my car where I use to wipe the handle when I go to get gas. I'll wipe off that handle so I'm not touching that handle that somebody else was touching. So I'm careful for me as well as others. And the restaurants now are slowly opening up, and I'm respecting that distancing there as well so that I'm not sitting at a table really close to somebody else. But if I'm with my quarantine buddies or people that I'm familiar with, we can sit at a table, but then be respectful of the other people. So it's all about showing others respect in this time of getting back to somewhat normal. And that's kind of how I'm going to go forth, so that I'm always careful about other people and respecting their concerns, but also respecting attention to, so that I don't get sick. And
Self-respect.
let's get on with it.
Yes, Jim has been patient long enough.
Exactly.
Well, wonderful. It's been fun. It always is fun.
It's been my pleasure, Ilana. I love this. It has been very rewarding for me to be on with you. You do such a great job of hosting it, and I'm so honored to be here as your guest. So it's been my pleasure. And let's stay safe and move on and do our things. And we'll see you all in Sedona.
Yes, see you all in Sedona, Arizona.
Yes.
Okay, Vibrant Tribe, from my heart, the kid in me salutes the kid in you. So play well, sleep well, to serve well.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us in this very moment on Instant Gratitude Now. May you transform something you perceive as awful into something awesome today and every day to broadcast vibrancy everywhere.